So you are now all being recorded. Hope that's okay. And we are going, can everyone see my screen? Should be able to.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. All right, let's dive right in. So, intro to careers and the tech landscape. Goals for today is for you to know how we approach careers here at Lambda School, what support Lambda will provide for you in your search, but then also what we expect from you in your job search. And my goal is also to kind of manage some expectations for your job search and start setting job goals for your search as well. So careers at Lambda School, I want you to think of the careers team, which I am part of, as your combined team of coaches and cheerleaders, and along with your fellow students who are like your teammates. We are going to be here to offer guidance and support every step of the way and celebrate your accomplishments and support you through your challenges. And your peers, your teammates are going to be there with you doing the same. That said, we also expect all students to take ownership of their careers. The support that we can provide has a limit, and at the end of the day, your job search is your own, and you're going to be a lot happier and a lot more satisfied by your career if you're taking initiative and leading your job search along with what we're giving you as support on our end. So why are we talking about careers right now? You're only in your second week. It might seem a little bit early. And the reasons we're doing this, there's four main reasons. One is we've seen students be contacted about job opportunities as early as several weeks into Lambda School. And so we want to make sure that no matter where you are, when you start exploring job opportunities, that you are prepared for that. So we start in week 2. That way, if you end up getting contacted by a recruiter in week 15, even though you haven't graduated yet, you're still prepared to have that conversation and you kind of know what to expect from that. Another practical reason is that career prep takes time and some things need to be done over a longer period. You can't build a professional network in a week. You need to do that over the course of weeks and months. And so by starting with those topics earlier in your Lambda School experience, by the time you graduate and you're actually ready to hit the ground running with your job search, you'll have what you need to do that. And so the things that take time, like researching companies where you want to work, networking, those are topics that we try to cover earlier on in the career curriculum so you're well prepared for your job search. The third practical reason is that it takes time to find a job, and a lot of the things that you're going to be doing, like building a portfolio, updating your resume, updating your LinkedIn, preparing for interviewing, these are things that you're going to spend hours and hours and hours cumulatively doing. And your time at Lambda School with the technical concepts you're learning is not going to get any easier. You are not going to have more free time as you go through the program. So if we try to spread it out over the course of your time with us, that way you're not cramming at the end as you're going through labs, trying to get your portfolio and your resume ready so you can get endorsed, which means that you're eligible to be shared, your portfolio is eligible to be shared with Lambda hiring partners. You all want to get endorsed. And if you start doing things now to prepare for that, it'll be a lot more relaxing when you're super busy trying to wrap up your labs projects later on in the program. And then finally is we want to keep careers top of mind for you always. Everything that you learn in Lambda School, you should be keeping your career in mind while you're doing that. I'm going to be working really closely with tech instructors to make sure that they know what you're learning in your careers content each week and can kind of reinforce some of the topics in what they're teaching so that when we're talking about interviewing in careers lessons, you're talking about how those skills can be applied to a technical environment when you go in for an interview for a coding challenge or a design interview. So we want to keep careers on your mind at all times. And by having careers lessons weekly, we hope that that helps keep it top of mind. You're going to be starting every Monday with careers, and then you're going to be ending every Monday with careers in a discussion with your project managers and your group. And so we hope that this kind of anchors it in your head as something that you should be thinking about at all times. So what you can expect from Lambda School. After week 15, every student will be paired with a career coach. We have an amazing team of career coaches who are here to support you through your job search process. And this includes reviewing your LinkedIn resume, portfolio, associated artifacts for your job search. It includes providing feedback on interviewing, on negotiations. They're also here every day of the week hosting open office hours. And so you don't have to wait until week 15 to talk to a career coach. While you won't be assigned a one-on-one career coach until after week 15, you can come to office hours any day of the week to ask any one-off questions that you might have. If you haven't joined the Career Help channel already, do that now. I'm going to pause in a minute to give you all a chance to go join the channel to make sure that you're getting updates on office hours. But that's the place where you want to definitely be an active member of. And then coaches support you through the job search process. And this might mean giving you a kick in the butt if you're lagging or falling behind or not following through on career opportunities. Or it might be reassuring you that yes, you are awesome, and yes, you can kill it in an interview, and yes, your tech skills are valuable, and you might be a junior, but you still have a lot to offer a company. They're the support that you need, which sometimes involves tough love, but just having someone in your corner to fight for you and push you through your search, even when you feel super demoralized or frustrated by the process. And then finally, they hook you up with some sweet swag once you graduate. So after you land your first job and you've graduated from Lambda School, you'll get a graduate package in the mail that has a t-shirt, a banner, I think a water bottle. So your career coach helps set you up with that. So I'm going to pause here, and I want everybody in here to join the Career Help channel in Slack. It's just hashtag Career Help. Once you type it in, you should see it pop up right away. I'll give you like 30 seconds to do that.
How do you do that?
Let's walk through it together.
Well, there's actually a few. There's career_help. There's career-help. Which one specifically?
You should join. Let me make sure. I'm pretty sure it's career_help, but that is a great question. It is hashtag career_help. So if you go to the channels bar on the left side of Slack, then if you click channels, click the word channels, you should see a whole list pop up. And then if you type in career_help and then click that channel and then click join channel, you'll be in there.
Thank you for that.
You are welcome. If you have any questions, post in the chat and somebody can help direct you. I'm gonna dive back in. Great. Okay, so what to not expect from Lambda School. 24/7 access to career coaches. Sometimes they get messages at like 3 in the morning asking for urgent help. Chances are you probably don't have anything that urgent for a career coach at 3 in the morning, but just want to emphasize that they are not available 24/7. You will be, like I mentioned, you'll be assigned your own career coach after week 15, or sprint 15 rather, and you will have direct support from one career coach who is designated and assigned to you after that. But until then, we ask that you use the office hours for any questions. You can post in the Career Help channel at any point, and peers might want to weigh in. I try to pop in there as often as possible and just answer any questions that I see. But office hours are really your designated time to ask questions. We cannot guarantee or give you a job. We have a partnerships team that works really hard to generate opportunities with partners all over the country, all over the world, now that we have a more global presence. But at the end of the day, we can't interview for you. We can't negotiate an offer for you. We can't show up on day one and impress the team for you. So you need to do those things for yourself, and we'll do everything that we can to support you in getting there. But the more you're putting into your job search, the happier you're going to be with the results. And that ties into the last bullet. Own your search. we will motivate you as much as we can. Job searching can be frustrating, so we know that and we're here to support you. But at the end of the day, your job is your own. Other resources that you can expect later on in the program, and these won't come up until either after you graduate or shortly before. Mentorship. We're really excited to be rolling out a mentor program. This is a pretty new program, so it should be pretty fleshed out by the time you complete Lambda School. But we pair you with mentors based on your region, your field, and other preferences that you may have. And the mentor's goal is to really help you get a job. That's what we tell mentors. It's like you can offer guidance, offer support, all of that stuff, but like at the end of the day, like we're bringing you on board as mentors to help our graduates get hired. So it's an amazing resource, and it's optional right now for graduates. I'm not sure if it will be optional or just like highly encouraged by the time you graduate, but every single one of you should opt into having a mentor if you are given the option, because it's just a really incredible opportunity. Labs continuing education. This is kind of like what happens after you graduate from Lambda School. So assuming you graduate and you don't have a job yet, which is very normal, it takes time to find a job. On average, a job search takes 3 to 4 months. So Labs continuing education is there to continue to provide the structure that you'll experience over the next 30 weeks or 29 weeks at this point with Lambda School. So in the mornings, you'll have designated job search time. You'll have guided projects to help you move forward in your job search. And then in the afternoon, you'll be working with a project group and continuing to put your skills to good use. So continuing to design, to code, to build things. That way your portfolio is growing, your GitHub is staying active. If GitHub is a platform you use, I know that's not common for students in the UX track, but for you, that your Dribbble is staying up to date. And it just keeps you relevant in the job field. And the reason that this is important is because we see for graduates who take a break after graduating from Lambda School, even a 1-week break after Lambda School where you're not coding or you're not designing or doing anything at all or actively job searching, we see the odds of those students getting hired drop by 50% after just 1 week. And if they take 2 weeks off, then it drops to 80%. So it's really important that you stay active after you graduate. You're also going to be really tired after 30 weeks with Lambda School. And so Labs continuing education is to provide that structure and support to keep you moving in the process, because you're probably going to want to take a week off, and we do not want to let that happen. We want you to stay relevant. We want you to stay competitive. And then another amazing resource is access to Lambda School hiring partners. I mentioned this before. While we can't guarantee you a job with our hiring partners, we work really hard to generate relationships all over the United States so that no matter where you live, there is a partner in your area that you can tap and kind of get a foot in the door through Lambda School with them. So setting goals, it might seem kind of obvious, but is super important when you're job searching. So I wanted to specifically focus on this. Every single week, you'll have a theme to careers. So you'll have a careers lesson every week. I'm going to do my best to design the curriculum so that when you're like super, super busy in your tech tracks or in build weeks or in labs, the careers week is a little bit lighter. Depending on what sprint group you're in, it might not align perfectly. And especially towards the end of the program, things like interviewing prep are just going to take up a lot of time because they are big and important skills to build. So it won't be perfect, but we'll have a theme every week and an associated assignment that you can expect to spend anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half on. It shouldn't take up a huge amount of your time because I know you're all really busy, and your free time is also valuable on nights and weekends. So we try to keep these assignments light while still allowing you to build the skills and the tools that you need. And then, as I mentioned earlier, some of you might be coming in with a lot of corporate experience or job searching experience. And so if you are in a lesson and you find that what I'm saying or whatever the career coach who's facilitating that lesson is saying is a little bit repetitive of some things that you already know, then I want you to feel empowered to take those assignments and those lessons to the next level to really challenge yourself. So for example, if that we'll have a week devoted to LinkedIn. And if you already have a LinkedIn that is that you've been updating regularly, you're connected to a lot of people, you've been proactively reaching out to people, you're pretty on top of that, then you might want to take it to the next level by, starting doing cold outreach if that's not something you've done before, or seeing if your first degree connections can help introduce you to second degree and ultimately third degree connections on LinkedIn. So you'll have the option of just not doing anything that week because you'll have already met expectations because you have an updated LinkedIn. It's in your best interest, and I would really encourage everyone to challenge themselves and push themselves if there are assignments that you can do that on. And then finally, I always recommend just setting an extra weekly goal. So these are things that you maybe don't feel as confident in, or like things that you struggle with. So for me, I call myself a performative extrovert, which means I'm really an introvert who's very good at pretending to be extroverted. So I struggle with networking. I find it really tiring. And whenever I'm job searching or just trying to keep my network up to date, I set goals, really specific goals around this. So I say, I'm going to reach out to, 5 people this week whom I haven't talked to in at least 6 months, just to reconnect and keep communication open. And so for you, it'll depend, but I think focusing on your growth areas until they become strengths is a good way to focus your goals. And I say all this knowing that some weeks are going to be busier than others. You might have weeks where you just don't have time to do any extra career work outside of the assignments that we give you. That's understandable. And in this situation, give yourself a break for a week and then come back at it the next week. It's just like with any goals. You might not meet every single goal every single time. Don't let it discourage you, and just pick it back up when you can and go from there. And I'll say this a million times, but the more you do now, the less you'll need to do later. Again, you're not going to get less busy as you go through the program. So preparing yourself for your job search now as much as you can will really reward yourself. You'll reward yourself with that in the long run. So now that you know more about what to expect from us and what we expect from you, I want to set expectations for the job search as a whole in the tech field. Some of you might have worked in the tech field previously. Some of you might be brand new. So I'm going to overview what you can expect from different sized companies, from some of the social dynamics that exist in the tech world that don't exist in other fields. And knowing what to expect and knowing what you want is really important when you're targeting your job search. And it's also really important to prepare for going into a new field as a junior. There's a lot of rules that are spoken, but there's even more rules that are unspoken, and it's kind of assumed that you'll know that, and it's not obvious. So we're going to take the figuring out of that and make it really clear about what will be expected of you, so you know how to go in on day one and make an excellent impression. Tech can also be a weird field. I don't know if any of you watch Silicon Valley. Most companies are not like that. I live in the Bay Area though, and so it's literally close to home, and I have friends working at companies where that is absolutely, some of the things that happen in the show feel very much like real life. So it is not like that everywhere, but there are just kind of some like weird quirks about working in tech sometimes at specific companies that can be a little bit shocking and surprising if you don't have experience in that environment. So hope to debunk some of the myths in this lesson ahead, and also verify some of the things that you may have heard about working in tech. And again, this will vary depending on where you live, depending on what type of company. Some of you might be in a technical role at a, e-commerce company or a financial tech company, which is going to be a very different dynamic than, a startup that's developing apps. So it's important to keep all of that context in mind. So there's 3 main types of companies that you'll be applying to: startups, mid-sized companies, and larger, also known as corporate companies. What you can expect at a startup: they're often under 100 employees. Sometimes under 50 is considered a startup, and then when you hit the 50 mark, you become a mid-sized company. It depends. There's no like strict definition of what is or isn't a startup. But one thing that they all have in common is it's a fast-paced environment. You'll learn by doing. You're going to probably go outside the scope of the job description and have a chance to touch a lot of different things at the company. And as a result, your role there will probably be pretty critical to the company's success. And that means that there will be more pressure on you as an individual, but there will also be a lot more opportunity for growth and recognition, which is exciting, especially when you're starting out in a field. Depending on the company, job security might not be super stable. I just left a job, and it's been in the news a lot recently for laying off a lot of people, and like that's a challenge, and that's a reality at a startup. So it's just something to be aware of. I wouldn't say don't go into a startup if you're really excited about the opportunity just because of that, but do your research, understand where the company's at financially, and there's just like an added layer of understanding that you need to have before accepting a role. Things that they're looking for in candidates. If any of these apply to you, you might want to consider looking at startups for jobs. They want people who are self-motivated, who will do things without being asked, who can adapt to a rapidly changing environment without complaining or getting stressed out about it, just kind of go with the flow, take initiative type of people, and also people who are able to balance a lot of competing priorities in a fast-paced environment. This depends on the company. Salaries could be lower. It's not always the case, but it could be. And you might find that there are more perks and other kind of incentives to make employees happy. So a big one is equity. So you can expect to get stock options as part of your compensation package at I don't want to say all, but most startups. So if you're applying to jobs there, just be prepared to do your research and have that be part of your negotiations as you're going through the process. Other perks that they might offer are things like, free food or happy hours, a game room, things like that to, promote employee happiness and well-being if they can't compensate as well as a larger company could. And the teams are smaller, which means that there's more flexibility in what they do. There's more agility in approaching new problems and goals. And this isn't always the case, but for the most part, the culture at a startup is pretty casual and laid back. Think like jeans and t-shirts attire versus a more like business casual or business professional environment. Mid-sized companies are usually between about 100 and 500 employees, and they're not at the point where they're, super rigid and structured, but you'll find more structured teams, more structured hierarchies. There's a system for benefits. There's usually a process in place for how to get promoted or grow within your team. And there might actually be like definitions of what it looks like to grow in your role. So you know exactly what you need to do to get promoted. Whereas sometimes at startups, it can kind of feel a little bit random and arbitrary because there aren't those established processes yet. Mid-sized companies and larger are great because there tend to be more opportunities for mentorship. Bigger teams mean that there's a broader range of people who you might click with or be able to learn from. So that's a cool part about being part of a larger company. Since these companies are more established, they tend to have a higher starting salary than a startup. And they may have better benefits as well in terms of like healthcare and retirement, other benefits that might be important to you. You may or may not get perks or equity at mid-sized companies. Really depends on the company. But because they're a little bit more established, they might not have to rely on equity so much as a way to get people in the door. There's more stability. That said, any company can go under at any time. There are layoffs all the time at larger companies, but generally you can feel a little bit more secure in your job than at a startup. And the culture really depends. You'll find super casual environments. You'll find a lot more formal buttoned up environments. So just depends on the company and what they do and where they are. And then larger companies of 500 plus employees are often referred to as corporate companies. And you might feel kind of opposite of working at a small company where you have a ton of responsibility. At a larger company, because there's so many people working there, you might feel like your role is just another cog in the wheel rather than super critical for the company's success. But there's good things to that because it also means that you might not have to work crazy hours sometimes to get your work done. There's more distribution of work and responsibility. So it's good, especially if you have a family or, other priorities outside of work and you're not in a position where, you can devote a ton of time to working in a really fast-paced environment. Larger companies are good for that. Salaries are often more competitive. Benefits are usually pretty great. PTO, you might find like the whole unlimited PTO thing at small and mid-sized companies. Generally, corporations have processes where you earn and you accrue your PTO. Because they're well known and because there's a lot of layers involved and they're just hiring for more roles in general, the hiring process can take longer. So you might apply to a startup and then get a job offer within a couple weeks. Whereas with a larger company, it could take a couple of months to go through that process. And jobs there might be more competitive if the company has a lot of name recognition and a lot of people want to work there. The teams tend to be more structured, stricter hierarchies in terms of reporting and who does what. You won't have as much of a flat management structure. And this can be challenging sometimes, but it also means that there's usually pretty clear paths for growth and advancement. And because there are so many people there are generally really good opportunities for mentorship. And a lot of larger companies also have training programs or established mentorship programs, staff affinity groups, things like that, that make it easier to connect with your peers despite working in a larger company with so many people in it. Larger companies can be great early in your career, especially if it's a well-known company. It gives your resume some credibility and it kind of gives your reputation a little bit of a boost because people will see that on your resume and be like, oh, wow, that person worked at Amazon or Microsoft. That's impressive. I know those brands and this person has credibility because of that. And just like with mid-sized companies, larger companies really run the gamut in terms of what the culture is, whether it's casual or more formal. So it'll just really depend. So keeping realistic expectations. Your first job is 99.9% likely not going to be your dream job. That is okay. I don't know anybody who got their dream job as their first job in the field. It's a stepping stone. You build experience there. You make the tough mistakes there. You build your reputation and you become a more competitive candidate. So when you do apply to your dream job, you have a greater likelihood of actually landing it. So don't be discouraged if you're applying to all of these companies that you've been passionate about for a really long time and they're not getting back to you. That is part of the process. Don't be discouraged by that. It's totally okay. And it's very rare for somebody to land their dream job first thing. You want to be targeted in your search, but you also want to be open to a variety of opportunities so you don't miss out on things that you could be really interested in. I have a rule in general, never say no to an interview unless it's like completely not a good fit and you would be preparing for an interview that you are just like not qualified to prepare for. It's not the skills that you've been building. It's not at all relevant to what you want to do. But for the most part, interviewing is a great opportunity. And even if you are going in for an interview at a company and you're like meh about the role and you're pretty sure that you'd turn it down, even if you got an offer, go in anyway. That is amazing practice and experience. And interviewing can be really tough. It's one of the things that graduates are most challenged by in their job search. So always take an opportunity to do an interview. Depending on where you live, the tech market in your area may or may not be super robust. So being willing to relocate is going to open up a lot more doors for you. This is not possible for everybody. People have families and other things that tie them to their local area. But if you're in a position where you could relocate for a job, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you live in an area where there isn't a super strong job economy. Remote jobs are definitely a thing that you can apply for and you could get. They're more scarce, so it can be more competitive. No surprise, a lot of people want to work remotely. And it's also not ideal for your first job in the field. And I say this because you don't get the same social interaction, you don't get mentorship, like the one-on-one attention from your manager, the feedback that you get when you're working in person with people all the time. And I know for me, that was so critical as I was building my experience and building my career. And now I work in a remote job, and it's really challenging because I have to find ways to connect with coworkers virtually. And, there are ways to make it work, but I'm like kind of relearning how to work in a way that I wasn't expecting at this point in my career. So you can do remote roles, but you get a lot more visibility if you're in person with a team. This is a big one. We really encourage you to stay in your first job at least, 6 months would be like the bare minimum, but really at least a year. And the reason for this is it helps you build your credibility. It's a red flag for a lot of employers to see someone who has spent less than a year in a previous job, because they see that and they think, well, maybe this person's just going to leave my job after less than a year. And companies spend a ton of money hiring and training people, and they want to hire people that they feel confident will stay with them for, at least a year, so they can actually add some value. If you stay for less than a year, then there's a pretty good likelihood that the company is either not making a profit or breaking even off of you, and that's not what they want. So plan to stay for at least a year. We also see sometimes graduates who don't love their jobs but aren't like miserable. They just are kind of interested in other things, coming back and applying for jobs that through Lambda hiring partners. And, it's great to see graduates engaged. We want that, and we want to support you throughout your career. But you'll all appreciate this when you go on the job search. We want to make sure that every Lambda grad has their chance and has their shot. And so we ask that you consider your circumstances before coming back after you've already had a job and applying for a job that another Lambda grad who hasn't yet gotten their foot in the door could take. So, we'll support you. If you're unhappy in your role, if you hate your job, if your manager's terrible, if it's a really toxic environment, absolutely look for another job. But otherwise, try to stay for at least a year and just build that experience. And then you can move on to something that you're more excited about and that you feel really happy in. And then finally, rejections. They happen. Nobody likes to be rejected. It's the worst. It stinks. It's part of the process, though. Chances are you will be rejected from at least one job. And some of you might be lucky and do really well in your first interview, but this is part of the process. Learn from it, move on. Don't take it personally. Use it as a learning experience and use it to grow. I've been rejected from jobs. Literally everybody I know has been rejected from jobs. It is the worst. It happens. You're still amazing. Don't take it personally. And then once you're on the job, being successful, it means a lot of things. I always say that the first three to 6 months are still part of the interview. Some companies have actual probationary periods that are like formal parts of their initial hiring, and where you might have like a formal evaluation after 3 to 6 months. But even if that isn't part of your role, think of it as that. You need to prove yourself every single day and work really hard to build trust. It's okay to make mistakes, but try to avoid the avoidable ones and don't make the same mistake twice. That's key. You want to show that you're learning from it. No one's going to expect you to know everything on day one, but you should demonstrate that you can learn from your mistakes and grow. Ask for feedback. Some companies do this really well, others don't. So if you aren't really sure how you're doing, ask your manager, ask your coworkers for feedback. What am I doing well? What could I do better? This is super important. Building relationships is important. Just be aware of the time you spend socializing. You might have peers who are constantly at the foosball table. It's totally okay to take a 15-minute break and go hang out with them for a bit, but you don't want to be there for like an hour in the afternoon just chatting and playing games. Even if you don't have work to do and you feel like you aren't busy enough, look busy. Like go to your desk, ask for more work, and show that commitment to working hard and being diligent. Alcohol is a big thing at companies. If you don't drink, great, this isn't an issue for you. Sometimes companies can be a little bit, depending on the team. I've heard stories of friends who are like very hardcore peer pressured into drinking. Don't ever feel peer pressured into doing anything you don't want to do. Not to sound like your parent, but if you do drink, it's okay to socially drink at work. Just be mindful of this, especially depending on the culture. Some companies can have big drinking cultures, and so it's easy to get kind of wrapped up in this. So this might seem obvious, but it's important to say. You don't want to embarrass yourself, especially in the first several months at a new job. So if I always say limit yourself to 1 to 2 drinks, depending on your limit. And then another good practice is to avoid asking for PTO if you can in the first 3 months. You might have an emergency. It happens. It's okay. If you have a trip already planned before you start, just bring that up during the offer phase. It's usually not a big deal, but you don't want to ask to take a week and a half vacation 2 months into the job. And then once you've established yourself, then it's okay to ask for time off. So our tips for success. If you don't have a Gmail account in this format, firstname.lastname@gmail.com, you should have one. Your email address that you made in 6th grade, that's like soccer star 18942 is not going to cut it. You need a professional email. It should be a Gmail account. Don't have AOL or Hotmail. Even if you use these for personal stuff, that's totally fine. You should have a professional Gmail email address. And it should be some variation of firstname.lastname@gmail. If you have a more common name, you can add numbers, you can add underscores, things like that. But it should be pretty clean and straightforward.
I have one that's like just my first initial and then my last name. Is that fine?
Totally fine. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Really, you just want something professional. It doesn't have to be, it's not for recognition as much as it is just to make sure that you don't look immature based on your email address.
So no numbers whatsoever?
Oh, numbers are okay. I would avoid like a million numbers just because it's long and hard to remember. But if you have, like if your name is Bob Smith, there's bob.smith@gmail.com is probably taken. So you could do bob.smith49 or, whatever your favorite number is. Yeah, right. Numbers are fine.
All right, real quick question. What if you own your domain name? So like if you're
that's even better. We're going to get to that. You'll cover that in tech in a few weeks if you haven't already. If you have a domain name and you want to have your email at that, then that is ideal. If you don't have that yet, no worries. Gmail is totally fine. But yeah, domain names are even better. Good question.
Even if the domain is .info, like I have a joeygarcia.info, that is as if it's not a .com or does that matter?
That's fine. I don't think I actually recently asked about this because I wasn't sure if there were best practices around, like .co, .info, or other suffixes. That's fine. That shouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Any other questions about emails? Awesome. Feedback is huge. We used to say, I learned this at Year Up, feedback is a gift. You'll get a lot of it here. Use it. Sometimes it can be tough feedback and you might get feedback from your peers that feels intense, kind of heavy. It's coming from a good place, and feedback is an amazing way to grow and to learn and to convert your growth areas into strengths. So we're all learning. Nobody's perfect, and feedback is designed to help you do that. So be open to it. And you might get feedback from your career coaches around like your resume format or things like that you disagree with. We talk to the partnerships team very regularly and get feedback from them about what companies that hire Lambda grads want to see. If you're getting feedback about something in your career portfolio, I recommend taking it. You can always keep your other resume version and then have your Lambda version as well, and do an A/B test to see which resume gets more hits. We don't know everything, but we get a lot of feedback, and we try to incorporate that proactively into the curriculum. So if you hear feedback from us, chances are it's because we're hearing it from somebody else who is an authority in that area. So take it use it, test it out if you really want to see if we know what we're talking about. But generally it's coming from companies that actually want to hire our graduates. You'll need to do your career assignments eventually. All of them are important for you to become endorsed or be ready for your job search. And as I've said before, you are not going to get less busy in the coming months. So recommend doing them when they're due and not putting them off. You'll have to do them eventually. When you get assigned a coach, don't ghost them. A lot of people, I think when they graduate from Lambda School, they're like, okay, I'm done, I need a break. And they don't get in touch with their coach, they don't follow up, they don't respond to Slack messages. Don't ghost them, they're here to help you. And if you are off the radar, it becomes really hard for us to support you in getting a job. We can't refer you to partners if we don't know that you're gonna respond to messages and follow through on communication. So don't ghost your coach or anyone else from Lambda School for that matter. If you get a job, let us know. We want to celebrate and we're here to help you negotiate and go through that whole process. Make sure you feel good about the offer. So keep us in the loop. And then code or design every day during your job search. You want to keep your skills really sharp and relevant. Labs continuing education will help you do this. But don't take graduating from Lambda School as a time for vacation. You need to get a job, and your focus is going to shift from most of your time being spent building technical skills to about half of your time being focused on your job search. And then trust the process. There might be things where you're like, oh, do I really have to do this? If we're asking you to do this, it's because we've seen it work and we know it will work to help you get a job. If you, I don't know if you've had a chance to get to know Holdy yet, you will. He always says, if you do everything I tell you to do, you will get a job. And that is true. We are here. This company will not survive if our graduates don't get jobs. So we are doing everything in our power to help you get a job, both because we care about your success, but also we all need jobs. So we want Lambda to succeed. We want you to succeed. And the process is designed to do both of those things. So I ask that you trust it. So your assignment for Friday, and I will post this in Slack too, but I'm going to share a tool with you that is an organizer that will help you just kind of keep track of companies you're applying to, people you're networking with, etc. And you can use an organizer of your choice, Evernote, something else, if you have a system that works for you, to start setting weekly goals for your job search. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Literally could be 5 to 10 extra minutes per week. It's just to get you in the habit of setting career goals and making that a priority each week. So you'll submit that to your PM on Friday. And then write out a paragraph also describing what your priorities are in a company and what type of environment you think would be the best fit for you. You may have already thought about this and know exactly the type of place you want to work. But if you haven't thought about that yet, just use some of the information that I shared today to think through it a little bit more, based on your priorities, your skills, your interests, etc. So I am going to stop there. And I would love, it is 9:47, or 8:47 rather, I'm on Mountain Time right now. So I know that you have your tech class starting in 15 or less than 15 minutes. So if you want to go, please take a break, but I'll be here with you. So if you have questions, I would love to answer any questions that you all have now live. So feel free to hop off or stay and ask questions.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I know it's going to be a free-for-all for questions. So just so I understand the flow, so every Monday, we're going to have this type of meeting during the hour before we're supposed to start our lecture.
Correct.
And then we'll also have this same type of meeting with our PMs at the end on Monday. And then our assignments will be due for the career objectives on Friday.
Yes, you've got it. And
Okay.
you don't need to do anything to prepare for the Monday afternoon conversation. It's if you have questions or if you have things you want to talk about, then bring them to your PM and to your group. That's great. But your PM will also have some kind of guiding questions to get the conversation started. And the reason we're doing this is because we want you to be able to talk about your skills. Some feedback that we get is that when our graduates go into interviews, they kind of freeze up and they can't really talk about, what they're doing at Lambda School or what skills they're building. And so these conversations are to get you talking and or to help you get comfortable using the new vocabulary that you're building in your tech classes and talking about them in the context of like career and professional development.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Remington, yes, the slides will be made available for later viewing.
I have
This
a
will all
question.
be in training camp. Sorry, go for it.
What are some of the biggest complaints that hiring partners or corporations have about new hires?
Great question. We don't have too many complaints about new hires. I think the biggest feedback that we get and the thing that is like the biggest barrier to our grads getting jobs is technical interview abilities. So I'm actually going to be meeting with a member of the partnerships team either today or tomorrow to get more like specific feedback on that. I've been working with the technical instructors to make sure that I understand what the expectations are from companies in terms of different fields, what types of interviews you'll be doing, how to prepare for those. But I think being able to talk about your technical skills, to go through a whiteboarding session, to do a brainstorm, to talk about how you've applied your skills in actual projects, that is the biggest challenge that prevents graduates from getting jobs.
Just as a follow-up, are there any personality quirks or anything like social interactions that to also look out for?
To look out for from hiring partners, or to look out for in yourself?
Yourself, hiring partners, general personality conflicts that keep popping up, that kind of thing.
I think the one thing that every company will be looking for, no matter what type of company it is somebody who is flexible, open to new things, eager to get started, kind of that like learning and growth mindset. That will serve you well in any type of environment. I think there have been challenges where, grads have gone into jobs and they've been discouraged by, challenges that they were facing. And rather than saying, okay, this is a great challenge, how can I move beyond this? What resources do I have to help me figure this out or navigate this? They shut down a little bit. And so I think just like being open to the fact that you will not know everything. You'll never know everything. I think a lot of people feel really heavily impacted by imposter syndrome. And that comes up a lot when you get into the job and you're surrounded by all of these people who feel so much more qualified and more experienced. And, they might have degrees from these prestigious schools and computer science. Don't let that stop you. Your curiosity and drive is going to go a really long way. So I would say like on the job, that's probably the thing that trips people up the most. And then I don't know about in terms of like dynamics from the hiring partner themselves or the company themselves. I'll have to get back to you on that.
You mentioned a job search tool in one of the slides there.
Yep, I will drop that in Slack.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a thought that it may be a little politically incorrect, but since we're talking about careers, I think it may be good to address it for somebody like myself. Because I personally have a tech background, not specifically in development, but more with like network support and things of that nature. That's where I was doing before I started to join Lambda. And I applied for a lot of tech jobs, like with Zapier, TaxJar, like Sales Ability, a bunch of like remote jobs that were tech, but they were mostly on the customer support end.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I go to a website and I look at like they always have these photos of these retreats, especially the ones that are 100% remote.
Yeah,
they look awesome. They look great. But to be honest, I never see a black male. It's always like I see a couple black females, and I always have a hard time getting over the hump because I'm pretty technically sound when it comes to customer support, but whenever I look at a lot of jobs that are completely remote, it seems hard, and it doesn't look like there's many people that look like me as far as that are there. So can you talk about maybe trying to get over that hump even if you're technically capable, but still maybe the culture, it may not be something that may vibe with you personally, but you're able to do the job.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. And I think this is real. I mean, this is real in a lot of fields. It's a huge topic in tech, specifically. And there's no, I mean, I can't give you an answer of like what you as an individual, Joseph, can do to like get over that. I think the important thing is to research the company. Some companies are doing a lot of work and doing the right work that's needed to have a more inclusive work culture. And they might be at the point where it's like, our work environment does not reflect America. And like, this does not, like, we want our company to feel inclusive and open to people from all backgrounds. And they might be doing the work that's needed to get there. And there might be other companies where this is just like totally not on their radar. So I think, being in a work environment where maybe you are the only Black man or the only Latino woman or the only, person with a physical disability or whatever, that can be a really hard barrier. And finding companies that prioritize inclusion and are working to be better is important. Something that you could look at too is mission-driven companies. So there are, and you don't have to work for a nonprofit to do that. So there might be companies or programs that are specifically focused on helping underrepresented folks get into tech. That's been my background, and what has, driven me in my career is helping people who haven't had access to opportunities get that access. And you can totally be a developer for, Black Girls Code or, other organizations or programs that have like a specific focus. So if that's something that's really important to you, then you can focus your job search on companies that are doing that. If you don't want to focus on that, then I think just knowing what companies are doing, finding companies that have like staff affinity groups or other inclusion, like real inclusion practices, not just like a PR page that makes them look good on social media, that are really doing the hard work and learning about them, I think is the best way to go about it. But yeah, there's no like one way to like get over that or work through that. Like it's tough and it sucks. And the conversations are happening and things are changing, but I don't think things are where they need to be in a lot of places. So not a great answer, but I hope, but it's a real answer.
Perseverance, brother.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in. I wear this. You might not notice I'm Black, female, and in tech.
Yep.
And for me, it becomes a distinction that actually stands out, and people know you almost immediately. So if you're good at what you do, whatever their hangups may be, let it be their hangups, but move forward in your space without worrying about it. And don't own their problems. Be yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And we're gonna talk more about this in future lessons. I'm like trying to figure out like how to have like diversity and inclusion lessons in an online space. I'm used to doing them like in person with people, which like having that physical connection with people in a room is really important. So yeah, this is something it's super important to me. And I think, most Lambda students are not from a super traditional background in terms of like, having economic access or racial privilege or gender privilege or education privilege or any of those things. And so it's really important to me that you all feel, if not like great about the dynamics that you might be going to work in, that you at least feel like you have tools and the knowledge to navigate that in a way that's empowering to you. But great question. We have 2 minutes left.
Just the assignment, just a tad vague. Evernote, set up a weekly goal for yourself. Like,
I'll share it. Yeah, I'll share the links in Slack. I realized it was just in the slide, so I'll share the links in Slack as soon as we hop off of this. I'll get that posted within the next couple minutes, and it'll have like once you look at the document, there will be like an organizer. You can use the tool that I send. Evernote was just a suggestion of an option that you could use. If you have another, I literally print out a piece of paper and write like reminders and goals. I'm a paper oriented person. So if that's what works for you, do that and send a picture to your PM on Friday. You don't have to use one specific tool. It's whatever, goal setting thing works for you and whatever like tracker works for you. If you don't have one, the tool that I'm going to share, it's in a Google Sheet, can be a great place to start because it keeps all of your stuff in one place. There's a space for setting goals. There's a space for tracking your network. There's a space for tracking job applications. So it's kind of all in one. So you can use that to start if you don't have a system, but the system matters less than the actual goal setting. But I will drop it all in Slack.
Sweet, thanks.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to end here. I know you have class in a minute. Thank you all for joining. Really excited to work with you over the coming months and get to know you all better. If you have questions, join the Career Help channel and drop them in the thread that I'm going to create there. That way they're all in one place and people can see them across tracks. Because right now you're kind of segmented into your track groups, and I'm going to work on getting you all together into one place so we can have these conversations as a cohort. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Peace.